Well, guys, if there's one thing in this playoffs everyone should know by now, it's don't poke the bear. Do not poke the bear. And hopefully the Celtics are learning that lesson, even though it's deeper than them deciding to aggravate Jimmy Butler late in the fourth quarter. The Celtics have now gone down 0-2 to the Miami Heat after playing their first two games at home. They lost to the Miami Heat 111-105. Miami now leads the series 2-0 heading into Miami for games 3 and 4 with an opportunity to close it out at home in 4 games as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference facing a number 2 seed, a favorite to win the NBA Finals during the beginning of the regular season. And one of the better teams, people would have said one of the top 3 teams in the entire association this year, was down 0-2 in the conference finals to a team that they faced 3 out of the 4 past years, and have beaten them every single time, except for one time in the bubble, and that was 3 years ago. This is crazy. It's absolutely crazy that Miami, as an 8 seed, is up 2-0 in the conference finals right now with an opportunity to close it out at home. They didn't even play home games yet, and they are 5-0 at home this postseason so far. Wow, just wow. Obviously, let's talk about it. You know, the elephant in the room, I guess. Grant Williams and Jimmy Butler getting into it late in the fourth quarter. And I'm actually going to praise Grant Williams here because, you know what? Basketball is about being competitive. It's about competing. It's about, doing the best you can and showing your passion that you have for the game. You can clearly tell he cares. And him and Jimmy Butler get into it after Grant Williams hits a 3. He barks back at Jimmy Butler down the floor. Jimmy Butler gets an and one on him. They start talking. They both get teed up, right? But Jimmy just keeps going at him. And Jimmy said in his post-game press conference that it kind of got him going a little bit. It willed him to want to get that win. Boston was winning at that point. I think they outscored them by 22 points in the third quarter. They were leading the game at that point with 6 minutes left to go in the fourth, and Jimmy and the Heat just turned on the Jets. Grant Williams, like I said, he played well. He did not play bad just because he was getting scored on by Jimmy Butler. He was just in a different zone. He was in a different zone that fourth quarter. Grant Williams, like I said, played well. He was 4 for 6 from the field, had 9 points. Effective off the bench. He was getting DNPs, coaches' decisions. Wasn't really playing. He didn't play a couple games this playoffs. And for him to give the Celtics good minutes is something that they can definitely use going forward if they even want a chance to try to bring this series back, which they can because, the Celtics, they are a good team. They just swing up and down sometimes. And like I said, something that the Celtics definitely need to work on that plagued them game 1, plagued them throughout this playoffs is the turnovers and their stars not showing up. The Celtics end the game with, I think, 15 turnovers, right? A lot of them bad passes out of bounds, dribbling the ball, getting pickpocketed. Those type of turnovers you can't afford, especially in the fourth quarter. You can't afford those kinds of turnovers. And like I said, you can't afford your stars not to show up. And Jaylen Brown, who's been playing really, really well this postseason, he's objectively been the better player between him and Jason Tatum consistently during this playoffs. Tatum has the better performances. His highs are higher than Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown is pretty much very consistent. And we did not get one of those consistent Jaylen Brown performances today. He scored 16 points, was 7 of 23 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. Minus 24 on the floor, the worst from the Celtics. Jaylen Brown, like I said, he's been playing well all playoffs long. And this is probably not the game where you don't want to see him have a bad game, but you can't really blame him ultimately for having one bad game out of all the games that he's played so far. You want to have his other players step up behind him, and they just really didn't. Al Horford was 1 for 5, over 3 from 3. Robert Williams only had 13 points. Marcus Smart was off. He only shot 5 shots, had 7 points. Like I said, Jaylen Brown didn't play very well. And you only got production from Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White. Of course, their 8-man rotation, and that's it. Now, Tatum went cold in the fourth quarter, and that's the ball game for you, especially when Jimmy and Gabe Vincent and Bam Adebayo, Max Strus, and Duncan Robinson, and Caleb Martin, and you're getting Cody Zeller minutes, and you're getting Colin Lowry minutes, and they're all playing well. That's hard to swallow. That's really hard to swallow. And now you're down 0-2 heading on the road, which is a tough situation to be in. I know a lot of teams would call this over. Like, a lot of people would say this series is over. Miami's going home. They have home court advantage. They won 2 on the road already. Heading back home, this series is pretty much wraps. I would agree with that statement, but I do not doubt the Celtics' ability to come back in this series. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lost 0-4 or, lost 4-1 to Miami in this series, because this is a really tough situation to be in. You have to have the confidence, the moxie, the guts to come back and take 2 road games in Miami and try to bring this series back. And I don't think that's something the Celtics have this year. I don't think they have that in their DNA. I don't think they're built like that this year. And I think Miami is built like that this year. We'll talk about it. Jimmy Butler, cold in the fourth quarter, man. He was just ruthless. 27 points on the game, 12-25 shooting. Bam Adebayo got a clutch offensive rebound, which is another thing we'll talk about with the Celtics, allowing the Miami Heat to get offensive rebounds in this game. They got 11 offensive rebounds in this game for the Miami Heat compared to the 6 that the Celtics got. When you get out rebounded, you're also highly likely to lose the game. Bam Adebayo, like I said, got one of those clutch offensive rebounds and put back dunks that put the Celtics, put the Heat up 4 late in the game. Gabe Vincent played well down the stretch, had 9 points for this game. Max Strus hitting threes. He was 2 for 5 from 3, had 11 points. Duncan Robinson giving you a nice 15 off the bench, hitting 3 threes, cutting in lanes, getting layups. Like I said, he was also getting DNPs this season, coaching decisions. Only played like half the season, and now he's in the rotation for the Miami Heat, giving them good minutes. You got Caleb Martin coming off the bench, who played sensational. He was great this game. In 32 minutes, was 11 of 16 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3, and had 25 points. When your role players show up, and all these undrafted guys, it's crazy. Miami is they're having one of the greatest 8-seed postseason runs of all time. Even if they lose this series, winning against the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks, the favorites to win the NBA Finals, then going and beating the New York Knicks in the second round, and then coming and winning the first 2 games in Boston, this is an all-time run for an 8 seed. Maybe one of the best outside of the Knicks, who made it to the finals. This is amazing. It might even be up there with that just because of the way the Miami Heat are winning and the teams they've beaten and the way they're beating them and the way Jimmy Butler is playing in the postseason that he's having. It's absolutely sensational. Give props to the Miami Heat. Give props to Miami Heat bench. Give props to their undrafted players. Give props to Erik Spoelstra. Wow, what a coaching job that he's doing this season. He is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the NBA. Give props to Miami, man. That's all I got to say. This is a complete downfall by the Celtics. You'd hate to see it happen. They beat my 76ers. We would have had the opportunity to be in the conference finals, but I don't even know at this point if we would have even beat Miami just because of the way they're built and the mentality that they have coming into these games. They're just different. They're just a different team. They're up 2-0, heading back home in Miami. This is absolutely ridiculous. And Jimmy Butler is putting on an absolute show. Do not poke the bear. Don't poke the bear, man.